Hello, friends. How are you? We are glad to come back to you. How was your week? Hope you've been well. Thanks for joining us. All right. So please help us invite your friends as we get ready. It's an interesting topic today. Okay. So, I sent it to open it there. Okay. So who is there? So it's Samuel and I who are here to greet you, be with you, and discuss with you our topic today. I'm seeing so many smiles.
Hello, everybody. We are glad to see you today.
Jude, you're welcome. Evangelist Rogers, thank you for joining us. Brother Paul Subuga, you're welcome. Joe Okello, thank you for joining us. Wycliffe, thanks for joining. Martha, how are you? Ambrose, Benedict, please help us invite your friends and let's go into this topic. So, what did we cover last week? Can you remind us, Samuel?
Last week we were talking about, I think,
June, how are you?
About maturity, self-sufficiency, and wholeness.
Yeah.
So, Stephen shared a video on his timeline, and I also shared the message, also the video on the timeline. I was talking about maturity, and there are different approaches to maturity.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Now, what are we looking at this week? Interesting. It's still under the series, The Journey of Self-Discovery. And we are going to look at the topic called focusing on principles rather than societal expectations or public opinion. We realize that if we are ready to discover ourselves, then we shouldn't let public opinion or societal expectations define who we are. And part of discovering ourselves or finding out who we are is by discovering principles that we have to, imbibe in our lives and live by. And that's how we really define who we are. So I'll be very excited to hear your contributions. Many of you are familiar with this topic. So we welcome your knowledge, your wisdom to share with us and our viewers. Please type your comments and everyone and your ideas. Barunji Clement, good morning. How are you? So it's time. So let's start. Our topic is at the bottom.
Okay.
Focusing on principles rather than societal expectations. And in our note, I put a quote by Henry, and it says that, Sam is finding it out for me. He who floats with the current, who does not guide himself according to higher principles, who has no ideal, no convictions, such a man is a mere article of the world's furniture, a thing moved instead of a living and moving being, an echo, not a voice. So much is loaded in there, so much truth. Sammy, what do you have to say about that?
I really appreciate Henry for writing this quote because it is more practical to our daily life, even up to this very moment, because people naturally flow with what goes on in society. They are not conscious on checking the content of what they hear, what they see, what people tell them. They just take up whatever comes and then they popularize it. There is no foundation, and they ought to be living by principles. Actually, that should be what they should be living with, to be able to guide them in doing things. Because you see, they're like pipes. Things that flow through them. You know, they should be like gatesmen to check what is coming in through them, and then give it a pass if it is according to their principles.
Okay. So sometime back, when we hinted on principles, how important principles are in our lives, in a single person's life, in everyone's life, someone commented, I don't remember the name really, but they commented and say that, Esther, what do you mean by principles? What are principles? So in this broadcast, we are taking it in such a way that we're just going to give examples of principles, just to help that person and anyone like him who may not be familiar with what we're talking about. So we're just going to give examples and contrasting them with societal expectations. In that way, we can, I think the point will go home better. So I encourage you that if you remember any principle you're living by or you've learned about, please type it in the comments, and also contrast it with a societal expectation. In that way, our viewers who will be reading the comments will really understand what you're talking about. Okay, so what is a principle? What is a principle? Okay, I have in my notes, I have a definition here from the Webster Dictionary. It is a moral rule or belief that helps you know what is right and wrong, and that influences your actions. So it's just a belief that helps you identify what is right and wrong, and it guides your actions in everyday life, everyday living. So most principles that guide human living, so socially, culturally, politically, and economically, have their roots in the Bible. The advancement we see in Europe and the Western world came about as a result of the Protestant ethics. You can read about it, on the internet. So these Protestant ethics were rooted from the Bible. So we hereby see that the Bible is a very good source of principles. And other books, other books out there from other faith denominations and all that. So, but the Bible is known as a book, a good source of principles. So, when we look at the Bible, we should always seek to find out what principle can I extract from this passage I'm reading. So many times when you go in the Bible, or you want to get a rhema, just to teach it out to your congregation, or to, share a testimony or a prayer point. But we should also review the way we look at the Bible. When I read a passage, when I read a story, what can I get out of it? Is there a principle I can apply? What is the truth in there that God is teaching me about himself? What is the truth there that God is teaching me about myself? What is the truth in there that God is teaching me about other people? So that's how we can, rediscover ourselves. The Bible tells us that we are made in the image and likeness of God, which means that when we apply the principles in the book, we become more like God. We become more like him. And that is part of self-discovery. You discover yourself as the image of God by applying the right principles in your life. Okay? Okay, so let's start. We have examples here. Sammy will go first. We have an example. So we're going to give you examples of life governing values or principles, and contrasting them with a matching societal expectation, so that we see how these work and, contradict each other. So, Sammy?
All right. As Esther has said, most of the principles that we find are based on truth. Is rooted in the Bible. So we are going to be mentioning some scriptural passages from the Bible, and then drawing out principles from them. All right. The first one is found in Acts chapter 17, verse 28. Okay. And I'll read a part of it. It says, "For in him we live and move and have our being. In him we live, we move, and have our being. Now, the principle that we can bring out from here is that God is our source.
Oh dear.
God.
Can you see us? Sorry, let me stop you. The network was gone. I hope we are back. Okay, sorry.
All right.
Love.
The principle we can draw from this passage is that God is our source. All right. Now, if you are going to look at societal expectation, the society doesn't see God as the source. Rather, they depend on parents, depend on the father of the house, depend on the church, on the pastor, depend on the spouses, friends, and connections, and things like that. So all in the bid to make it. But in the real sense, we should depend on God as our source. If we live by this principle, it will be well with us.
Okay, can you say this? That's where we get that principle from again?
So it's from Acts chapter 17, verse 28.
Okay.
Yeah.
So another principle, okay, that we can extract from the Bible, there are so many, we're just giving examples, is from Ecclesiastes 3 and verse 11. It says, he has made everything beautiful in its time. Also, he has put eternity in their hearts, except that no one can find out the work that God does from beginning to end. This verse explains that, God lives in eternity. He knows the beginning from the end. He's the one who gives us life. He sees the bigger picture. He is God himself. We cannot manipulate and twist his arm, okay? So that principle, that verse alone gives us a principle that we can live by. And if we can understand what this verse is telling us, then any single lady out there, okay, will learn to surrender. So the principle here is surrendering the question of marriage to God. Surrendering the question of marriage to God. It may not even be marriage. The question of any aspect, any stage that you are in life, you surrender it to God because he knows the beginning from the end. And instead you pursue your mission on earth. You discover what problem you are created to solve. Okay? You discover what problem you are created to solve and then pursue that. So this principle alone also teaches us that our joy and life is dependent on the goals and purpose that we pursue, that are rooted in God. That's how we find fulfillment. So on the other hand, what does public opinion say? Society expectation expect people to say concerning this principle? Well, public opinion looks at the biological clock, especially for single ladies. Oh, it's time to get married. Oh, get married at all costs. At all costs. Whether you're not ready or the person, you're not sure of the person, it pushes you to get married, which is really wrong. So we need to live by principles and not by societal expectations. And also another aspect of public opinion, is, especially in African communities, is that, and also this regards women, that women, that being married and having children is the reason for their existence. Can you imagine? No. So we need to discard societal expectations and live by principles. Okay, Sammy?
All right. Now, I'll be speaking about the idealistic worldview, the ideal kind of principles that we should have. This worldview is also based on the Bible. All right. The first one is responsibility. The Bible makes us to understand that we should take responsibility for our lives. All right. So we should not lay our blame, we should not put the blame on anybody, but we should be in charge, should be in charge of our lives. But on the other hand, the society, put blames on people. Oh, the reason why I am poor, the reason why I am single, the reason why
I'm not
I'm not
successful.
successful is because of the society, the government. My father is from a poor background.
If I go to America, I'll succeed.
So many kinds of excuses, but
Yeah.
that's not right.
Yeah.
So we should take charge of our lives. So that's the first worldview, idealistic worldview I like us to look at. The second one, please.
The second, okay, we've looked at responsibility. Now the second one is contentment. We need to imbibe this principle in our lives. Because when you look around and then you convert what someone else is wearing, the car that someone else is driving, the house that someone has, well, you've not known the process they've gone through to acquire that. So unless you to yourself put in the extra effort, you plan your finances, you invest, and then you acquire that. So there's a part of our life whereby we have to be content with where we are at the moment and find happiness in that place as we put plans in place, to achieve the next step in life. So this saves us from so many traps in life. Okay. So societal expectation concerning this principle of contentment drives us to be people of greedy for success. You can do anything to acquire success. People doing drug trafficking, prostitution, just to get success, to get that quickly. So we see the contrast of these principles and what society expects us of. Yeah. So we need to discard society expectations and then embrace principles to guide us.
Yeah. The next point is love for people.
The next principle.
That's the next principle. Mm-hmm. Now, this is a principle that even the whole world knows about, not just Christianity alone, in other religions as well. But, their definition of love is questionable anyways. But from the biblical point of view, when we live by the principle of love, then things will go well with us. Love conquers all. Love conquers all. One of my students challenged me one day and said, how can I love someone that hurts me? How can I love that? I said, well, it's a difficult thing really. But if you can really open your heart, forgive and love, then you will be at peace. All right. But on the other way around, the society looks at it from a different perspective. They believe that life should be of forgiveness, of unforgiveness. If somebody hurts you, so you hurt the person back.
The old law of an eye for an eye.
Yeah, an eye for a tooth for a tooth. And that's not good. Yeah. So they stress people. They are bitter against each other. They have hatred. You can be offended actually as a human being because the Bible says that we should.
Yeah,
you can be angry, but do not let your anger to affect your life and affect the other person. And your decisions. Yeah, so that's all about that.
I want to read June's comment. June has put a principle that she lives by. She says that the principle in Ecclesiastes has helped me not to worry about the things that I'm yet to have. I relate it to Jeremiah 29:11, which says that the plans that God has for me are good. Perfect, June. Perfect, June. Just hold on to that one. Okay?
I usually love June's comments,
Oh, June is very knowledgeable, We were together at the Institute for National Transformation. She's a leader of youth. She reaches out to youth. That's why I was trying to connect her to Mushabe so that they can work with youth. So she's a leader already. That's why she's knowledgeable.
Great job.
So thank you, June, for your consistency. You are a blessing to us. Can't wait to meet you. So, Pastor Shay, you're here. At last I've seen you now. You're welcome. Prince SK Frank, you're welcome. Vanessa Nachibule, thank you for coming. Isavide Edson, you're welcome. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining us. So the next principle we are looking at is truth. We've been learning about truth with Dr. Sandra Delaja for a while now. and realize that if we don't pursue truth, we'll be victims of manipulation. You see, because everyone runs by hearsay. Everyone has an idea and they want you to follow their ideas, you know. They want you to redefine your life for you. So once we pursue truth, you know, then we actually discover ourselves. And we escape so much manipulation out there in the world. Because guess what? Victims are people who are ignorant. Pastor Sunday wrote a book, The Mountain of Ignorance. You know, I recommend it that we all read it, because that book really exposes the dangers of ignorance and how that ignorance can actually come into our lives.
Pastor Sheyi is saying spiritual gymnastics.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, so truth is a principle we have to imbibe in our lives. And what does society expect us? Contrasting with society expectations, most people actually depend on hearsays, on gossip. Have you had a situation whereby there's a conflict and people just take sides without asking, without just knowing one side, because that's maybe the side is their friend, they like that person, and they just take that side and they hate the other person. Yet actually the real thing is to find out the truth of the matter. A conflict is caused by two sides. You know, there must have been something done by the side and another thing done by the other side. So listen to both sides. That's how we can pursue truth. So we need to fight ignorance. Okay? So that's the truth.
All right. There are several other idealistic worldview that is based on the Bible. All right. I will just mention a few of them because they are numerous. We can't exhaust them. So we think ideas like values like faithfulness, integrity, hard work, excellence, focus, perseverance, and delayed gratification. Now, all these values are important. So if we go by these values, we will see that we will reap their benefits. You understand? But you know, in this present day of ours, the society looks at it in a different form. Our society bases their own principles by serious prayer, especially for the religious society, churches, you know, in Africa and all that. So also miracles, and some people have are now being devoid of these values. All right, so they go into fraudulent practices, you know,
just to get quick success.
Yeah, and you know, and so many other things. So we can't talk about now.
Yeah.
All right, so that is the effect of living by principles. Principles are not governed by the Bible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So another principle that we can also see from the Bible is in Genesis chapter 1 verse 26. It says, "Then God said, let us make man in our image, according to our likeness." And also 1 Peter verse 2 and chapter 2 and verse 17 says, "Honor all men, honor all people." So in Genesis, it says that we are all created in the image and likeness of God. And then 1 Peter says that we should honor all people. Okay? That is a principle.
That's right.
Okay? The principle here is that a person who understands these principles respects and honors all people, irrespective of gender, background, race, you know, etc., and even age, because we are all created in the image and likeness of God. So if you honor God, you honor people, because why? They carry his image. It doesn't matter whether someone is younger than you, someone is male or female, they have a different religion from you, different beliefs, different background. No, it's all human race. So the principle of respect and honor is so much needed in our communities today, especially in Africa. Okay, so how do we contrast these societal expectations or public opinion or culture backgrounds. Okay, so in some cultures, especially we're going to look at African cultures because that's where we're coming from, so we know more about that. So in some cultures in Africa, it's only the rich or the elderly people that are honored and respected. So when a rich man who gives a big tithe comes in church, everyone stands up. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. A widow comes in, you know, you don't see the glory of God in that widow. A poor widow comes in. They don't see the image of God. In fact, she's put in the back row. That's where she sits. Where is our honor and respect for people? Before God, the poor widow and the rich man, they are all equal before God.
Yeah.
Because they are all children of God and they carry his image. So let us learn to honor all people.
And you know, in the Bible, there's a place where Jesus Christ said that this woman has given the poor widow has given more than every other person. You understand? That is to show that he honored the woman compared to all other people who has given.
Yes.
So we should honor widows. We should honor old people.
And in some cultures, especially in Africa, women are degraded, you know, which is so sad. So we should encourage our people, raise up our children to imbibe these principles in their lives while they're still young, so that it becomes part of them, so that gradually we fade away the generation that doesn't respect and honor people. Okay? All right, Sammy, another example.
Yeah, we can find another example from Revelation chapter 4, verse 11.
Okay.
Here it says, "Thou art worthy, O Lord, to receive glory and honor and power. For thou hast created all things, and for thy pleasure they are and were created."
Yeah.
Now, the principle we can find here is that we all are created to give God pleasure. We are all created to give God pleasure. Please do not forget that anytime we are reading out scriptures, we're supposed to ask ourselves 3 questions.
Yeah.
What is God telling us here? What can we learn from God here? And the final thing, what's God telling us about people? How should we relate with people? You understand? So the principle we can draw from this scripture is that we are created to give God pleasure.
Please God.
Now, how does the society see this? Traditions and cultures condition us to think that the purpose of, for example, women, because women are the culprit here, is limited to the kitchen, the living room, and the bedroom. All right? So, in other words, they are saying that the purpose of a woman, you know, is to live for the man, all right, or to live for the society, which is a wrong concept. All right, so we should have a different mentality. Yeah.
Okay, so we've looked at one of the principles that our life, the purpose of our life is to please our Creator. So the next one is an example. We can pick another principle in the Bible is the story of the woman who was caught in adultery. Sorry, for you who are not familiar with the Bible, we shall give some examples just to encourage, make you understand what you're talking about. But I'm sure that the majority of you are familiar with these stories. So in John chapter 8, there was a lady who was caught in adultery, and she was brought by a crowd to Jesus to see what he would say, because they were ready to stone her. The law then, the society expectation was that anyone caught in adultery, and I don't know why they only caught the woman, not the man. Unfairness. Anyway, let's not go there. So they brought this man, the lady, and they were about to stone them. Then what did Jesus say? He said, "You know what? Okay, I hear you. So let any of you who has never sinned be the first one to cast the stone." Guess what? No one stoned him, no stoned her. Why? Because we are all fallible. We are all weak. We have weaknesses. We all sin. Okay? So the principle in this story is, what is God trying to teach us about other people and also about ourselves? One is that we are all fallible. I am fallible. Okay? And because I am, then I should extend mercy towards other people when they wrong me.
Mm-hmm.
I should not lift myself up, righteous, holier than thou attitude. No. Okay? So the principle here is that we are all fallible. The second principle is that God is a defender of the oppressed. You see, love, mercy, that's the characteristic of God. That's what's always oozing out of Jesus. So even in that sin, he didn't go, oh, why did you commit adultery? No, he said, no. Has no one condemned you? I will not condemn you too. But go and sin no more. What a compassionate God. Okay? So God is a defender of the oppressed. And also the third principle we can see here is that when we show love and mercy to people first, then actually we are empowered to give them instructions. When Jesus extended mercy and love to this lady, then her heart was open to him. When he told her, go and sin no more, it was easy for her. Why? Because she received mercy and love first. So we extend mercy first before giving instructions. We love people first before preaching to them the gospel. We love people first before training them and mentoring them. That's a principle there. Okay, so how do we contrast it with the societal expectations? First of all, at that time, the societal expectation was to stone any woman caught in adultery. That was a societal expectation. But Jesus contradicted it and said, no, we extend mercy. Okay, and also another public opinion would be that many times we are quick to judge people, to judge other people before they are convicted. You hear a mistake they have done, no, that was so. No, we are quick to judge. But, that's the world, the public opinion of people. But God expects us to show mercy, to show understanding. Okay? And also another point concerning public opinion is that many times when someone sins, for example, this lady, we usually hate the sinner. We don't separate the sin from the sinner. We hate the whole person. Well, what Jesus is teaching us in this principle is that, separate the sin from the person. Hate the sin, but love the person. They are two different things. So that will help us to love people when we understand that principle. Okay? Yeah. So, Sammy?
All right. This is our last point for now because our time is ending. So we have to...
2 points. We have 1 more minute.
Okay. Let's see if we can manage it. All right. If we remember the story of the Good Samaritan, you see, dignified people, religious people, they passed before a helpless man who was robbed, who was beaten, and who had blood all over him. All right? But none of them did something about it. But there was a good Samaritan, somebody who was kind, who had no fame, who had no respect, as in honor from the public.
He was not a church person.
Yeah, an ordinary person. He did something. Yeah. Now, what is the principle here? The principle is we cannot serve God without serving people.
Yeah.
It is impossible. So please be careful. Let us not pass by, because this is the way the world sees it. You say, well, the government will take care of it, or it's not my business. I'm minding my business. It's not my civic duty.
I have my own problems.
And all those kind of things.
Yeah.
So that's the way the world sees it. But we should believe it by the principle of we cannot serve God without serving people.
And you cannot love God without loving people.
That's right.
Okay. And also with the society expectation, sometimes we land in the trap of religiosity. People are busy going to church and passing poor people on the way to church.
Yeah.
That's the example of the Good Samaritan. Principles and not societal or public opinion. Okay, so our last point, our last principle, an example of principles is the story of Abraham. in Genesis chapter 12. We all know Abraham. He was called out of his father's household to go in a place he didn't know. He just trusted God and moved on. You know, that's the story in the Bible. And the principle of the life of the story of Abraham, we get several principles, 4 principles, which I'm going to share. The first one is that life is a journey. He had to move from where he was to go to a place that God will show him. A journey of faith. So that's a picture, a symbol of life. We all come into this world, we're given birth to, and you don't know how that baby will end, but that baby has a journey of life before it. Okay? So life is a journey. What does public opinion think of society expectations? Well, you come into this world, you depend on fate, destiny, or chance. Oh, life is by chance. Yeah, whatever will be, will be. That song, whatever will be, you know.
Come see.
So that's the kind of societal expectation. We have to discard that. Know that life is a journey. I have to pursue this journey without being distracted and go to the end. So that by the end, I exit this earth. I've left a mark. I've run my race. Okay? The second principle we learn from the story of Abraham in the Bible is that this journey of life begins with the leading of God. God spoke to him. He was in a position where he had God. Okay, so let us train our children to hear God by themselves, not relying on pastors. To hear God for ourselves. That's a principle. Are you in a darkness? You want to make a decision? Seclude yourself. Go into solitude. Learn to hear from God for yourself. It's a principle. When we rely on prophets and pastors, sometimes we are misguided because they too are fallible, as we've seen. Okay? Yes, they can advise you, but let us learn to connect to God because it's called us to a one-to-one relationship. We don't have any mediator anymore. Jesus is our high priest. Okay? So contrasting this to the world view, okay? I mean to the societal expectation would be that in some cultures, it's the parents that determine what their children will study at university, what they will become. You know, I have a son who is a lawyer. Now you have to become a doctor. Did God say? So who reach out to the artists, to the people in the movie industry, if everyone is a doctor? So let us learn to let our lives, you know, you are just a steward of those children. They belong to God. They are not yours, really. So surrender them to God and teach them to listen and have a relationship with God so they can get to hear God for themselves and choose a path in education that will lead them to their calling. And that's how they'll be fulfilled. Okay? So that is the societal expectation for that. Another principle we pick from the story of Abraham is we have to learn that for my mission, for my destiny, for my purpose on earth, I must separate myself from some things and some people and some places. You see, Abraham had to leave his father's house. You know, so that shows us that in our journey to fulfill our mission, we have to separate ourselves from some things and some people who may not be right for us, who may hinder us on our journey in life. Okay, so that's another principle. Okay, whereas societal expectations expect you to, you know, fit in with people, be a people pleaser, have people around you who like you. Oh, my son, don't leave me. Oh, please always be here. Hey, you have a journey. Let her tell her mom, please pursue your own journey now. I'm here on earth. I have my own. So that's another one. I'm rushing because of time. And then another lesson you can pick from the story of Abraham is there will always be challenges on this journey. Just because God has called you doesn't mean that it's going to be a smooth journey. Otherwise, you will not grow. You will not become wiser. You will not produce, bring forth some of those gifts in you that are hidden. And only trouble and challenges can help you bring them out. So a life is not trouble-free. In fact, there's beauty in challenges. Pastor has written a book about challenges.
Right.
What is that?
I think life is full of
where there's a problem.
There's a problem. There is money.
There's money. First of all, there's money, and there's so many. We can give stories of how our problems have really elevated us, and that's how life is. So, but society expectations teaches us that, oh, when you have a problem, you cry. Oh God, why me now? Why is it always me? Is someone against me? My father's house. Nah, 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 nah. The witch there, the witch in the south, the witch in the north. I beg. The stories, the problems and challenges have come to wake you up, to tighten your vessels, for you to become wiser, and to even seek God. Have you noticed that some people it's only through problems that have come to believe God? It's only through problems that we got light, electricity as inventions? Come on. Challenges are part of life. So we should embrace them with the understanding of who we are. So I think that's it because of our time. I'm sorry for taking time. And our action point, type it now.
Yeah, so our action point is, what principles are you going to start living by? And what societal expectations are you going to discard?
Yeah.
So that is the action point for this week.
Okay. So thank you, friends, for joining us. I'm sorry for taking so much of your time, but I hope you've learned something. So please type us any principles you're living by, share with us so that we can learn from you. And how is that contradicting with what the society expects you? So that helps us that other people who will be viewing this video in the future will read through your comments and learn from you. So we are here to sharpen each other, okay? So thank you so much for being with us.
I think we need to tell our viewers that next week we are traveling on Saturday. So we want to do a pre-broadcast, and we would like you all to watch out for the pre-broadcast on Saturday. We'll put it on Saturday,
Friday night.
On Friday night.
Yeah.
So you can see it on
Saturday morning. So Saturday morning we won't be live because we'll be traveling at that time. Yeah. So, but we'll post the video for you, so you'll find it there in the morning. That's okay. Right. Thank you for your patience, and thank you for loving us. We love you too. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, lovely people.